It was the late 1400s. The Portuguese were new rulers flexing across the Indian Ocean. The Maldivians and the Portuguese first crossed paths in the year 1503. Chief Captain Vicente Sodré spotted 4 Maldivian vessels loaded with local goods like rope, dried fish, and beautiful hand-woven clothes. They were traveling with Muslim traders from Calicut, a city in the state of Kerala in South India on the Malabar coast, today known as Kozhikode. The king of Kannur had a deadly agreement with the Portuguese king. Any goods passing through his waters belonged to the Portuguese crown, and anyone who defied this was fair game for attack. So Vicente Sodré and his men, with threats sharp as their swords, demanded the Maldivians hand over the traders or be burnt along with their vessels. The Maldivians reluctantly point to the traders. The Portuguese seized the goods and without mercy killed the traders. What a merciless trailer, a grim preview of the horrors the Maldives was about to face. This was a time when both the Portuguese and the Malabars had their greedy eyes locked on the Maldives. And there was Sultan Kalhuohfummi, a man with big ambitions and no shame in asking for help to grab the throne. Honestly, it was already a troublesome setup, and things were only about to get messier. Sure, the Maldivians didn't have guns or cannons to fight back, but what they did have was something even scarier. Whispers of black magic, dark secrets, and mystic powers floated through the islands like a shadow you couldn't shake. Sometimes that kind of power can be deadlier than any cannonball. History has shown us that time and again. Kalhuohfummi seized the power with the help of the Kannur forces, trading gifts and illegal trades for their support. But after 15 years, his nephew, Sultan Hassan VII, overthrew him, and he ruled for 2 short years and then he died. Next came an Arab king, Sultan Ahmad Shariful Makki Sirisuda Bhavana Maharadu. Then came Dhivehiraajeyge, Bureka, and eventually Kalhuohfummi again. We've covered that wild ride before, so spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't caught that episode. Bureka actually got the Portuguese to help take out Dhivehiraajeyge and put Kalhuohfummi back on the throne for the 3rd time. It was not just the Portuguese who had eyes on the Maldives. Mahal, a powerful Kannur trader, also craved power over the islands. Before the Portuguese arrived, Mahal tried to cement his control, having the Hindu king of Kannur sign a letter giving his brother the kingship over Maldives. But the Maldivians didn't buy it. In August 1512, Baba Abdullah, a spokesperson for the Maldivian government, approached the Portuguese governor. The king wanted Portuguese help to protect the islands from Mahmal's financial greed. The deal was that the Maldivian Sultan would share business profits with the Portuguese if they kept Mahmal in check. The Portuguese officially set foot in the Maldives in 1512 during Kalhuohfummi's 3rd reign. The Portuguese governor wasn't playing around. He warned Mahal, leave Maldives within 5 months or face death and forget about his goods in the Maldives. He also planned a Portuguese base where Mahal had his. Now, did Mahal back down? Nope. he made life even more miserable for Maldivians, demanding taxes and harassing locals. In 1518, Portuguese warships attacked Malay bases in the Maldives. The Portuguese met with Mohamed to build a base in Malé, but the Sultan only allowed for them to build a business center in Malé. An agreement was made. Maldives would supply a set amount of rope to the Portuguese business agent, and the prized ambergris from the sea would be split evenly. Mamale hated this deal. He played dirty. He convinced the Portuguese to let him oversee Malé in exchange for goods, and with this power, he started taxing Maldivian islands again. In late 1518, a new governor came in place, Diego Lopez de Sequeira. He ignored the previous agreements and he sent João Gomes, also known as the captain of Maldives, to set up a business center in Malé. He was ordered to buy rope in exchange for rice, but their rice stocks ran low, so they just took rice from the boats in Malé harbor. This infuriated the locals. The Portuguese then started arming themselves, setting up bases, roaming with guns, and trading local goods illegally. By 1519, some islands were fully under Mamelay's control. The Maldivian Sultan, unable to pay an annual tribute of 20,000 gold coins, handed over Kinolas and Kandikoro islands as well as the control over the northern islands in Maldives. Soon after, Mamalay and his agents mysteriously disappeared from Malé. Nobody knows why. Meanwhile, Kalhuohfummi and the Portuguese renegotiated. The Maldivians feared Malay would return, so they wanted the Portuguese to protect the Maldives, but the Portuguese lacked a strong enough base to guarantee safety. The Portuguese asked Sultan Kalhuohfummi for a detailed report on what Malay took. Now, the Portuguese did that so that they can compare what they gained from the Maldives to what Malay gained from the Maldives. So the Sultan lied and he minimized the amount. But a Maldivian named Liankalu sent the real numbers to the Portuguese, hoping that they would help him overthrow the Sultan, but that plan backfired. The Portuguese captain of the Maldives was miserable in his job. He was so frustrated, he kept lashing out at those around him. In 1512, things boiled over. Gujarati attackers stormed the Portuguese business center in Malé. By 1521, they had killed 2 Portuguese captains based in Malé. 2 new captains arrived in 1526, and the Portuguese had given them permission to wage war if needed. And Sultan Kalhuohfummi's reign ended in 1528. Sultan Hassan Shirazi VIII took over. The Portuguese cruelty continued. They kept on stealing and killing Maldivians. The next king, Hassan IX, was heavily influenced by the Portuguese. He converted to Christianity and fled the Maldives, but that's a tale for another day. It was December 1551. Political chaos erupted again in the Maldives. 2 rivals, Abu Bakr and Ali Kaleyfaanu, fought for the throne. Meanwhile, Hassan IX sent a ship inviting government elites to join him in Christianity. Maldives fought back. They killed the Portuguese aboard and seized their goods. Despite the rivalry, Abu Bakr and Ali Kaleyfaanu always put the country first. Over the next 4 years, they fought off 2 Portuguese invasion attempts and they won. In 1554, Abu Bakr became king, but just 4 months in, a bloody fight in Malé ended with his death. 2 years later, Ali Kaleyfaanu became king, known famously as Ali Raskefaanu. 2 months into his reign, the Portuguese launched a massive invasion with warships and fighters led by Andiri Andirin. They occupied Male's harbour and attacked the island. Days went by and the Portuguese ran low on food and weapons. Maldivians were wary. Some wanted to surrender, others wanted to fight on. The national spirit, the patriotism in Maldivians, it was so weak at that point in time. The Portuguese attacked from the west side of Male with heavy weapons. Kaleyfaanu led his warriors into battle, sword and shield in his hand. According to Hassan Thajuddin, the king stood at the front. He refused to send others to fight while he watched from behind. His army wielded swords, spears and arrows. When Kaleyfaanu reached the Idhumisking, he looked back and he saw his large army fleeing. Idhumisking is the tiny little mosque in Mahal near Lemongrass restaurant. So, alone but unshaken, Kaleyfaanu stood firm, ready to fight even if it meant death. He fought alongside two loyal men until all three were martyred. Kaleyfaanu was buried where he fell, now the site of the famous Kaleyfaanu Ziyarah on Shahid Ali Hingu. With the death of Kaleyfaanu, the Portuguese took over Male, building a base on the north side of Mahal. The main road which led to the area was called Andiri Magu for years. For 15 brutal years, the Portuguese soldiers roamed the Maldives, stealing, killing, and staining the seas red with Maldivian blood. The Portuguese believed Hassan IX was still the king. He had even rented the Maldives to a Portuguese man, de Souza Pereira, for 3,000 gold coins. The Portuguese in the islands were monstrous. They raped our women and children. They terrorized the people. Then came our heroes. The Utheemu Timbe, the three brothers from Utheemu. Mohamed Khatib Tagurfan, his brother Hassan Khatib Tagurfan, and half-brother Ali Khatib Tagurfan. They promised to fight for their nation. They moved their families secretly to Maluku for safety, and they gathered fighters. They met two warriors, Ali Hadi and Hassan Hadi, who left Maldives for Hajj before the invasion. They joined the cause. By night, they raided Portuguese-held islands, killing the enemies and gathering supplies, and they would disappear before dawn. They would hide their sails by the day. But tragedy struck in 1572. During a trip to Takandu, Ali Tagurfanu overslept and missed the boat. The next morning, the Portuguese found him, killed him, severed his head, and sent it to Andiri. His body was buried in Takandu and his head in Funadu. After 10 days of mourning, the brothers regrouped, ready to fight again. 3 days later, the legendary ship Kalhuohfummi was launched again. Side note: Ali Khatib Tagurfan suggested that the brothers needed a new sea vessel because their current boats were getting old. The three brothers agreed right away, but before they started to build the boat, being the respectful and the rule-following men they were, they went to Bara to ask permission from the atoll chief there. The chief had already been gathering materials to build a boat for himself, but eventually gave up on his plan, and he generously handed over all the materials to the brothers so that they could use it to build the new vessels. this was a big deal. That really showed the trust and the support from the local leadership and the trust and the support everybody had for these three brothers. Now, there are two versions of how the brothers acquired the wood to build the boat. One says that the atoll chief gave them the materials he had, and the others say that the Portuguese allowed the brothers to use wood from anywhere in the Maldives to build the boat. Either way, the brothers got what they needed, and the boat was built in Bara by expert boat builders personally chosen by Mohamed, Hassan, and Dandahelo from the northern atolls of Tiladumati and Miladumadulu. The team consisted of 2 main boat builders and 20 assistants working under them. And when the boat was finally ready and sailing on its maiden trip, something remarkable happened. A kalhuoh, which is a kind of a long barbel goat fish, if I'm not mistaken. Marine science folks, feel free to jump in if I'm wrong. So this fish, the kalhuoh, it got caught on the fishing line being towed behind the boat. The speed of the new vessel was so great that the fish jumped into the air. And Mohamed saw this happening, and he decided to name the vessel Kalhuohfummi. And Kalhuohfummi gained a reputation as the fastest vessel in the Maldives during that time, and it became a symbol of hope and strength for the brothers and their cause. Mohamed and his brothers sailed to the northern atolls, unleashing havoc on the Portuguese for 6 months. As the Portuguese forces dwindled, they retreated to Malé, guarding Malé fiercely. Though Mohamed and his warriors tried attacking Malé multiple times, tight Portuguese defenses held strong. One day, Kalhuohfummi mysteriously left the Maldivian waters. The Portuguese, they felt relieved. They eased their guard, and the soldiers focused on the order of executing the Maldivians who resisted conversion to Christianity. Some Maldivians gave in, but many resisted. On the 26th of July, 1573, the Portuguese planned to force all Malay Muslims to renounce Islam or die. The night before, the faithful citizen who remained Muslim gathered in secret at Farmuladeri Ismail Sharafuddin Fandiyarukalege's house, promising to hold on to their faith, even if it meant death. They armed themselves and prepared to fight. At midnight, Kalhuohfummi came back, cutting through the quiet waters of Malé. Mohamed noticed something was wrong. The usual guards were gone, and the island was strangely silent. They dropped the anchor and boldly headed straight towards Dhivehiraajeyge's castle. The cruel Portuguese captain Dhivehiraajeyge was outside, laughing and partying like he already owned the place. Mohamed hid behind a coconut tree, held his knife tight, steadied his gun, and bang! The shot rang out. Dhivehiraajeyge fell to the ground. He did fire one last shot as he fell, but it missed. The Portuguese opened fire in defense, but the Maldivians fought back with their traditional weapon, which was called a sileha, which was like a long spears made for battle. And with so much courage and strength, they fought off the invaders and drove them away for good. And with that, Mohamed became king, the man who saved the Maldives, a hero in time. And That's the epic tale of how the Maldives stood up and defeated the mighty Portuguese. Every year on the 1st of Rabiul Awwal, we celebrate National Day to remember that fight they put up that day. The Utheemu brothers and every single Maldivian who stood their ground to protect our home and our faith. Mohamed the Kaleyfaanu story isn't just another story in the books of history. It's a legend of bravery and sacrifice and hope that still inspires us today, I believe. And he was such a patriotic person. Sometimes when I read about him, I just feel like crying because, oh my God, the love he had for his country. If you want, I'd be more than happy to dive deeper into his life in another episode. There's so much more to that incredible journey. I know in this day and age, most of us, we don't really feel very patriotic. There are many reasons behind it, but I don't want to go into that, but I just have a request. I just want you to take a moment this National Day to really see the world or see the country from their point of view. Until we meet again to unfold another tale beyond the sunny side, this is me, Thatu, signing off. I'll see you the next episode. Bye bye.